All right, all right. Welcome to another edition of the New York Power Hour. I am your host with the most. I'm Ash. We got Peter, Ram, not Jeff. I don't know who Jeff is, but it's definitely not our Jeff. How you guys doing tonight?
Could be
You
better.
guys recovered
I'm
from
doing great.
Tuesday?
I'm still pretty happy from Tuesday. I know Peter's sad, but I'm still in a pretty good mood. So
I'm in a great mood. I'm in a great mood since Tuesday.
All right. Travel safely and everything back home and everything, Luke.
I'm back home. I'm back home. I'm safe. It was a long drive. It was tough getting out of Queens, but we made it. We made it back to Tennessee.
That's
it's not
awesome.
not very often that we get to meet up across three different states. Not very often that we get to watch a home run record get broken in person. So at the end of the day, I can't find. Look, they lost again yesterday. They lost today in reference to the Mets, which isn't great. But I'm still in a good mood, and I'm not as down on the team as I think the majority of the fan base is. So that might be where I'm at. I'm still pretty calm about it. I know some people are going into disaster mode, so we're gonna figure that one out today.
Peter, what are your thoughts on the Mets after what was it Tuesday? They put up 14 runs.
Well, I mean, on for Tuesday the vibes are great. Don't get me wrong. I mean,
Right.
there was still the general issue of Clay Holmes not being able to, pitch more than
Yeah,
even get to the
we salvaged what turned into a bullpen game very quickly. But the longest pitching performance in this 3-game series that the Mets got was 5 2/3 from Kodai Senga. He was 1 out away from breaking this legendary streak the Mets have going on, where they haven't had a different or a second starter pitch 6 innings or more in over a month, I believe, if that's where we're at, right? And so it's a kind of a tough one. David Peterson being the only one, by the way, to hit multiple 6-inning performances for the Mets. So we are in a weird spot for the Mets rotation. I admit that much because for some reason they get to the 4th inning and it's like they've become cursed. And this is everybody with all different reasons who have looked. I think Holmes, Manaea have gone into innings after like 3 shutout dominant innings, and suddenly they just blow up and can't get through the 5th. And so that one is a weird one for me because so we attended Tuesday, which was supposedly fire Eric Chavez night, which just tickled me because nothing more than amusement for me than watching a Mets fan base decide we should fire the hitting coach and then watch them hit so many home runs that they run out of pyro. That's exactly how this works. I mean, it made the most sense to me that we would show up on a day that you want to fire Eric Chavez, and this is the message that they get. Due to too many Mets home runs, we have unfortunately run out of fireworks for the night. We
I have never
apologize.
seen that.
That
I
that
thought
was yeah. That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen, and it's such a baller move. Like there's two ways of looking at it. They actually ran out of pyro, and that's really cool. Or they didn't actually run out of pyro, and they're just trolling the Braves. Like that's awesome. Classy
so.
move by the Mets there.
There's a couple. One being that they did use a little extra pyro for Pete's record-breaking home run, so that makes sense. But to my understanding, and I can be corrected if I'm wrong here, if anyone's watching that knows otherwise, the Mets hitting 6 home runs at home at Citi Field is actually the most they have ever hit in a singular game in Citi Field.
Wow.
So they
Right.
for 6 home runs. They got 6 home runs, and they were like, you know what? We're out of pyro because that's about as much as they would have available. And I think in tandem with what you were saying, Luke, that they said, you know what? It would be nothing short of hilarious if against the Braves we said, let's just put this out there and have a little fun. Let's announce that we have no more pyro. And I think they were in a good mood too at the end of the day. But I do think it tickled me, like I said, that Eric Chavez being fired night, as people were going to celebrate or we were going to talk about, was led up to by that. And Peter leading the charge over there and trying to behead Eric Chavez. How did that feel for you to
Well,
go there and try to fire Eric Chavez and to watch the Mets put on a good performance?
All I have to say is we were a day too early. I mean, we could have waited. Today or yesterday, it would have been fine and made more sense. But maybe Eric Chavez wasn't in the building. I don't know. I didn't see any pictures of him there. So I didn't see him there with my eyes. So
So
he might not
putting
have
aside
been
the
there.
fact that you saw him with your eyes and looked at me and said, "Hey, Ram, is that Eric Chavez?" And I said,
I-
"Yes."
I
So,
didn't know.
putting
Did you
aside
know?
the fact that you saw him with your eyes, here is the interesting thing. We saw with the Chavez burner situation that he was saying that, Jeremy Hefner is the bad coach, right? And here we are leading off talking about the fact that for some reason, the Mets pitchers have, since I think 1901, this is the worst streak of starting pitchers that have not had more than two different arms go 6 innings in a start, right? That is a little bit devastating of a stat. I think it's
Yeah.
actually a little bit more devastating than anything that the case is against Eric Chavez. The problem here is emotionally, I really like Jeremy Hefner, so I'm not really willing to take the criticism. But at the end of the day, if I put my emotions aside, it is a bit of a weird phenomenon to say, okay, we've gone well over a month, longest streak in MLB history of not more than one starter pitching over 6 innings. Like, think of all the bad baseball we've seen over the years, boys, right?
Yeah.
And you're telling me that this hasn't happened
So
in like
Yes, but
100 years?
I don't think that in this situation, and you can call me hypocritical because I don't like Eric Chavez, but I think the difference is when you look at the beginning of this season, the Mets had the highest team ERA in baseball. So you've seen that they legitimately can do it. But when you think about the fact that you've lost Griffin Canning, who up to that point before he got hurt was pitching well. Manaea just came back from injury and literally has foreign bodies in his elbow, and he cannot pitch.
Foreign bodies.
He cannot pitch above like 90 for after 20 pitches. Clay Holmes, this is the most innings he's thrown in the past 2 years combined. We're already past that. He hasn't started in a very long time, so his stamina level has to be nothing. Montas just sucks. Stearns got that one wrong. Yeah, he's allowed to be wrong every once in a while. So it's hopefully and I know we're going to talk about it more, hopefully with the arrival of some of these guys from Syracuse, that it can kind of stabilize it.
So let me ask this, and I know I'm not the Mets fan, and don't boo me for saying this, but we talked a lot about this early in the season, and one of the weaknesses for the Mets was their starting pitching. Right? You look at the team in spring training, and you said, "Wow, this is not a starting pitching that gives us a lot of hope." Right? And here you are, come April, come May, come June, it's like, wow, this starting pitching staff is totally overperforming. I mean, it's been phenomenal, right? And I said it then, and I'm going to say it now. The averages are coming together, right? You've overperformed to start the season, and now the staff is starting to rear its ugly head. And Peter, you make a great point here. Clay Holmes, I mean, he looked great to start the season, but he's run out of gas. He's absolutely running out of gas. You're looking at a guy who probably pitched 60 or 70 innings a season over the last 2 seasons, and now you're expecting him to go over 150. It's not plausible. You talk about Griffin Canning. Griffin Canning had a great start to the season. I know he's hurt right now, but I mean, was the expectation that he was going to continue throwing to a 3 ERA? He's never done it. He's never done it before. Yeah, same thing with Sean Manaea. Sean Manaea was hurt, and you're taking him off the IL. And like you said, he can't throw past 90 after throwing 20 pitches. What was that, the second or third inning? I mean, you get through the first time, it's like, okay, well, we can time this guy up because he's not even throwing 90 miles per hour. So I don't know. I actually I do know. It's just the team is coming back to the levels it's supposed to be at, and it's all just averaging itself out. And has nothing to do with Hefner at all.
No, I don't disagree with you. In fact, you were right. You said in the beginning, and yes, everything you said has been spot on. This goes to and it's very loose. It's not a strong criticism, but my only criticism of David Stearns is his unwillingness to flex from his plan. Now, has his plan been working out well so far since he's been the president? Absolutely. But I think the Mets had a legitimate chance to make a World Series run this year, and that's not an easy thing to do. And while yes, there were not really any big starting pitchers that got moved at the deadline, but I would have liked to see him make a move for one. The Twins did a fire sale on everybody. I don't know if they inquired on Joe Ryan. There were no reports on that. If they tried, and like when the guy from the White Sox, they tried to go him, he didn't get him, the center fielder. He didn't like the price, so they bailed. If I heard that, I'd be less upset, but I didn't hear anything on it. So it just feels like a missed opportunity.
Yeah. So Peter, you're saying you'd rather Stearns go after a starting pitcher at the deadline as opposed to the relief pitchers. I mean, talk about the relief pitchers that they've gotten, right? Gregory Soto's I think he's looked pretty good. I haven't looked into his numbers, but Helsley, Helsley has not been good.
He's not.
I think it's just a matter of time before he's back, though, because Helsley is a hell of a reliever.
I'm sure, but I think to Peter's point is I think you have everything to put a package together to get Joe Ryan. Why not do it, right? I mean, I think Joe Ryan still has 2 more years of control. He would rival Senga for ace in the staff, if not being the ace in the staff. So why not do it? Why not do it? And he would absolutely help you on the run this year and help you in future years as well and bolster that staff.
I think the Twins were a little iffy on whether or not they were going to give up Joe Ryan anyway. The other problem I have with Joe Ryan is he's consistently hurt every year. And to get a guy with like that with 2 more years of control, the Mets would have had to give up a lot.
But he's not but again, okay. So Ash, I know we kind of go back to that, the Thursday night baseball show, but I think that's more of a symptom of Minnesota, right? And maybe that's just a narrative, but it feels like every player in Minnesota gets hurt. And for Joe Ryan, I know I have him in fantasy. It's he's hurt for 2 weeks. He's hurt for 2 weeks and he comes back. And you can look at his numbers, but I'm sure he's putting over 150 innings in the last 3 seasons. I can't pull up the stats.
No, it's fine, but I disagree heavily with you and Peter here, because I think you should be accredited for actually sticking to the plan. Because the idea here is that, okay, we make the move for Joe Ryan, and the prospects that they're planning to work out for the Mets are now out the door. And it doesn't do us any good. Because if you're building on the faith of McLean and Benj and these guys, and your plan is expecting them to come up and that's why you're not making the moves, I'm going to trust in that plan. Because the Mets haven't really been in long-term contention in my entire lifetime. And I'm not talking 1-year stuff. 2015 was fun, and it was cute, and I liked it. Of course I liked it. I saw the Mets in the World Series, right? But I want long-term success. I want what teams like you guys got to see. And you don't do that by just gunning it we got a shot this year. Let's just trade all our prospects in the plan for Joe Ryan. And I'm not saying never trade prospects, right? I'm glad with, moving whoever you want if the deal makes sense. But I just feel like they've been making moves according to Stearns' plan, and they make logical sense. We got Cedric Mullins because if he works, great, you keep him. If not, Benj is there, right? They didn't move for a starter because they said, you know what? McLean's going to come up this weekend. And they plan for him to come up this weekend, by the way, because of the fact that if he stays on the roster from Saturday on, they shifted the rotation. This isn't talked about enough. He stays a rookie. Why are they doing that? Because if Nolan McLean is Rookie of the Year next year, when he got extra experience this year, the Mets got an extra first-round draft pick for free, even though they're a luxury tax team. This is good planning. I know I would love to play MLB The Show and send my guys over and get Joe Ryan and get Mackenzie Gore and be the Dodgers and dominate the world. I would love to do that. It would be fun, right? But it doesn't make sense at this venture, because if we're talking about long-term plans and you think about, we don't know what the CBA is going to be in a year, right? We might have a lockout, right? And so imagine we miss a year, right? Oh, congrats. We traded for the value of 2+ years of a guy, and maybe we get 1.5. And I don't believe in that. It just isn't right value to me. It doesn't make any sense, because they're going to get to keep their Benj and their McLean and those guys for as long as they want and work it out. So I don't like the idea of doing that right now. And they have faith in specific guys. They have faith in Benj. They have faith in McLean and Tong, and they've been open about that. So if you're not making those big moves because you think McLean's going to slot in and pitch the rest of the year and do the thing, Tong's going to come in later and do the thing, and that's what your vision is, I'm going to let you try to do that, because also, again, I don't know what the CBA is going to be. We may not just be able to buy and extend everybody. So they're trying to balance, just like Stearns has always done with homegrown players. These teams have long-term success not just by buying everybody. And you know that, Luke, right? The Yankees stopped buying people over the years, and they haven't had a legitimate playoff run in a long time. And
and you hit the nail on the head just now, Ram. Like supplementing your high priced stars with homegrown talent is how you sustain a window long term. And that's, I mean, even the Yankees back in the glory days, like they had some big contracts, but they also had a lot of homegrown talent that helped keep them at the top. If you just have 3 or 4 guys with big contracts and nobody around them, then those are the type of teams that end up being like the Baltimore Orioles were in the early 2000s when they kept spending money and not having any depth and then missing the playoffs.
Yeah, but look at the alternative. And you bring up the Baltimore Orioles. It's like you have all these homegrown players, but you can't play them, right? You have this just giant logjam of players.
But they can. The Mets have open rotation spots over the next couple of years, and most of their top prospects are pitching prospects. I mean, and I actually think that Peter has been the highest on Nolan McLean of anybody I know, and I actually think that the Mets see that as well, and I think that that's why they were unwilling to trade him in any kind of deal, and they're giving him first shot among all those pitching prospects. I think there's a lot of faith there. And at the same time, you also have some guys that are coming back. Like you'll have McGill next month coming back for a depth piece. I know you guys don't love him, but he's a good depth piece. And then, I'm not sure if he's going to make it back before the end of the season, but Christian Scott's already ramping up. And I think Christian Scott's a really good pitcher. I think he could be a third starter on almost any team.
Right. Yeah. And so that's another thing. Like I realized even the Montes contract, which he'll probably get out of after this year because he's been asked, right? They made these moves with the intention of trying to give this player space so they don't get them. They want to see what they've got and they believe in them. They've invested in this pitching lab. And so they believe that these guys can do something. And to what Ash is saying too, Sproat was around longer and was considered to be like the big guy. Even Tidwell and stuff early in the season, people were asking like why these guys came up and not Sproat, not Tong, not McLean, right? It's because they're playing the game. I mean, is it an accident that Nolan McLean is being called up to make his start the day after?
I don't believe that they did that intentionally.
I think they did. The day after?
I could believe it.
Literally the day after. I mean,
I don't think I'm talking about earlier, maybe whenever it came to like 1 or 2 days, but earlier in the season, I don't think they were. I mean, he started the year in AA and pitched there up until just a few weeks ago. Like,
yeah, but they could have called him up a month ago if they wanted to.
McLean's been in AAA for a while. That's Tong that just got called up recently.
Yeah, I feel like they called him up a month ago. I think they personally made that decision at the trade deadline because at the trade deadline, Stearns even mentioned by name McLean and Sproat and Tong because that was part of their plan, I think. And so if the plan crashes and burns, then it crashes and burns. I will acknowledge that. But I feel like his dedication to it and his vision for building this team, a mix of both the homegrown and picking up stars from the outside, is going to sustain long-term success for the Mets. And it might be confusing for some people because of the fact that we just haven't done that as an organization ever, really, because the Wilpons have decided to give money here and there, but it wasn't consistent. And we haven't had a sense of an investment in a farm physically and financially in terms of the pitching lab and things like this ever. Steve Cohen cares a lot and he's put money into this team. And Stearns is a very smart man. I don't believe he can do no wrong. I go back and forth on like certain things. I would have loved some different deals, sure. But I do give him credit for sticking to this plan because if he's looking ahead at next year and he's thinking, okay, that Bench is going to be in center field, McLean's going to be in the rotation, one of Scott and Tong is also going to be there, you're going to see a very homegrown Mets rotation. You could see an opening day next year of Senga, Minaya, Tong, Scott, and McLean. And nobody would be weirded out by that, and that makes sense.
So Rand, I don't. In fact, I agree with mainly your point about the CBA coming up. I think that definitely had something to play with it.
I think so too.
But again, I'm not saying that the Mets should have sent the entire farm for Joe Ryan. I didn't even hear it all. There could have been. It could have just not been reported. But
it would have taken 2 of those 3 pitchers.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned those names because I know it would have taken those guys.
But even throw a package of Vientos who we haven't seen in, I don't know, a week and a half, I feel like. He has, where's Mark? Is he hurt? Anyway, Vientos. Try some of the lower string guys. Santucci, try that. I'm not saying I'm not saying you needed to go get him, but I would have liked to hear some of these names being talked about. Now, it could also, if you told me that they did make it, but the Mets have kind of, and it's a good thing, you don't really hear leaks out of that organization much anymore. That's fine, but I don't know.
I get
like
what you're saying. I don't disagree with what you're saying. I'm just gonna, and this is gonna sound really homerish, but I'm working under the idea that they evaluated that and they thought, okay, if we have to move Vientos to get Mitch Keller, right? We'd rather keep Vientos because we think we have more in him, and we'll just thug it out with the arms that we have right now because they're paying Montes $17 million anyway. They're gonna see what they can get out of him, right? Like things like that. So I feel like they must have looked at it. The cost was something they didn't want to do, because I do agree with you. Like, I mentioned the big names on purpose. If you told me they were moving Santucci tomorrow, or they were moving Jesus, they moved Jesus Baez, I think, right? And I was like, oh, good prospect, but good trade. I like this, right? I'm down with that. Like, that's why I want to make sure I'm clear about it. I'm not saying hug every prospect. I'm just saying clearly, organizationally, you have faith in Benj, you have faith in McLean, you have faith in Tong and Sproat and these guys. And if you're going to stick to them that way, I'll give you till next year to figure that one out. Because, again, with the idea of I don't know what the hell this lockout's going to hold, I get the idea of, like, you don't want to pull out these guys and you might lose a year of control. We don't exactly know what it's on. I think that's also part of why we didn't see any major deals, like, outside of the Padres deciding that they would just, buy into, like, life's. But, again, giving up Leo DeVries for a closer is ridiculous. But
the Padres have always played traded like there's going to be no tomorrow. So that's something.
And they're in first place in the NL.
They are, because the Dodgers got swept by the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim in the outfield. So I respect Joe Adele walked them off, I think.
Yeah.
So the
He's
Dodgers
having a heck of a season, actually. Like,
he is.
I mean, I had totally given up on Joe Adele.
I'm still out on Joe Adele.
I'm still giving up on Joe Adele.
I mean, if he can be a 20-homer bat, that works.
He's burned me so many times in fantasy.
I agree. Yeah, I'm not going out to trade for him in a fantasy league.
Right. No, I agree with you.
He is consistently on the block. But Ram, I think you make a great point with the CBA, and I can't contest with that. But let me ask you this: come Saturday, what you guys are half a game up on the third wild card right now?
Yeah, they're half game up on the Reds right now.
Half game up on the Reds on the third wild card.
The Reds have the Brewers this weekend, though.
Would you rather Nolan McLean or Joe Ryan pitching?
I'd rather McLean. I think Ryan is the better pitcher, but I'd rather McLean because I like the idea of figuring out, okay, if we were really logistically the best World Series contender right now, right? I would be losing my mind and saying we needed to push more. But we have shown, for whatever reasons it is, the fact that we can't hit with runners in scoring position, the fact that we can't stay healthy, that this might not be our specific year. There's a lot of guys here who can make a run here, but whether or not we've got voodoo magic going on this team right now, I don't know. But we can't hit with runners in scoring position. We can't stay healthy. I believe that they need to. You talked about regressing to the average before about like the Mets starting rotation, which was accurate, right?
Right. But that's and that's exactly my point. I mean, you say this isn't a World Series team. This is a team that made it to the NLCS last year, right? This is a team that was first in the AL East for a good portion of the season. Like, that's not something to ignore.
I'm actually going to do a little kickback on that, Luke. I think, yes, that team was good, but they had a lot of flaws in how hot they got and when they got hot specifically.
Sure. I mean, but that's any team, right? That's any team. And, I know I've said this a million times. I know everyone has said this a million times. It's just about making it to the playoffs and getting hot at the right time. Right. But having the right roster there, and, do you want Nolan McLean pitching or do you want Joe Ryan pitching? Do you want?
If my option is that my only option? Is it? I have to trade McLean to get Joe Ryan?
Because you give up Jonathan, you give up Tidwell, you give up Santucci, right? You give up those guys to get Joe Ryan. I would do that. I would absolutely do that.
Nope, not McLean. Or Tong. Sproat maybe, but not McLean.
See, that's what I mean. You see, that's the thing is that the Mets. I think they feel like if you're getting 6 years of McLean,
Right.
right? Yeah, or how many years are we going to get out of him? Like 3 or 4, right? Because of the I don't know the exact, but let's say like 3 or 4. If they get 3.5 years, 4.5 years of McLean versus Ryan, and maybe they get a draft pick out of it or something, they feel like strongly about this guy and they're
Sure.
trusting their guns. But
Sure.
I like it's just the idea of like, do I want to give up my prospects if I realize this team went to NLCS last year? But last year, this is not a team that struggled to have a starter go 5 innings.
Sure.
Right? This is not a sustainable success strategy. So,
but that's exactly what I'm saying. Is you bring in a guy like Joe Ryan,
one pitcher does not fix a stretch of 47 starts without 6 innings. Besides David Peterson,
he absolutely breaks that, and that doesn't become the narrative anymore for the rotation
because it doesn't fix your rotation. Yes, it helps, but it doesn't fix your rotation.
But it's not just a 1-season fix. I get the CBA, right? You might lose a year with Joe Ryan, but let's say the CBA, we don't go into lockout, right? You still get 2.5 years of Joe Ryan. It's not a half of season fix. It's not a playoff push move. It's not like you're getting Zach Gallen, right? If you guys gave up the farm from Zach Gallen, yeah, I'd be screaming at the mountains. Why did they do that?
What under what circumstance would you think that they would do it without like taking McLean or something like that, or bench?
I don't know.
But see, that's what I mean. If it was like Santucci and like Sproat, even Tong for me, I love Tong, but like if it was like one of the guys like Santucci and something else, like it was like 5, 6, and 7, for example, type of thing, right? I would do it. Logistically, value-wise, I would do it. Your argument is sound, right?
Absolutely.
But I feel like they turn around and they say, okay, we can't have McLean because he's untouchable. Give us bench. And then it's like, all right, no, give us Jet Williams. And there's not a lot of talk about Jet Williams publicly, but he's still one of the better prospects athletically the Mets have. I don't know how that deal would.
I would have traded Jet Williams for a power bat before I would have traded one of those arms for Joe Ryan.
Like I would have moved Jet Williams, but he might turn out to be the best of the crop, and I might look stupid, right? But that being said, it really depends on what the offer could be. Like I think it's almost a moot point, is what I'm saying, Luke, because I think we agree with each other, but we don't know what the offer was. So like I feel like the offer.
There was no offer, but that's it. That's Peter's point, is that there was no offer. But what I'm saying is,
I don't know. Because the Mets have done so good at keeping the leaks quiet. Like we didn't have heat on Greg Soto or Mullins or any of that stuff until it happened. We found out about the trade when it happened, and then there was talk about it after that. There was nothing beforehand that said, "Oh, the Mets were poking around here" or anything like that. So
I think there were I think with Mullins, I think there was definitely discussion, especially when they pivoted off Robert. I agree. The Helsley came out of nowhere.
But I can't say for sure they didn't do it.
I think the Mullins thing was more of just people thinking like this would fit the need and it made sense.
Right. And I would make the same argument for Soto as well, because he was a left-handed reliever, and that was one of the biggest needs that the Mets needed. Right. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what a Joe Ryan deal looks like. I don't even know if Joe Ryan was even available at the deadline. Right. But if he was, I have to say, I would absolutely move a Jonah Tong. I would absolutely move a Santucci in order to get Joe Ryan. I agree. McLean looks really great, and if that's your guy, that's your guy. You don't want to give him up. But for 2.5 years of Joe Ryan, you know what you're getting versus Jonah Tong. Sure, maybe he looks really great in AA. Maybe he looks really great in AAA. But that jump from AAA to MLB is huge, and we've seen it time and time again.
Absolutely,
time and time again. And especially with pitchers. I mean, look at
I would push back on what you just said a lot, because in the last couple of years, pitchers have transitioned to MLB from AAA much easier than hitters. I mean, how many hitters have we seen come up and fail over the last year and a half?
Those are just the majority who get more hitters.
Yeah, I mean, pitchers are transitioning up so easy in the last year and a half.
I'm stuck on
Kurtz.
Yeah, I'm stuck on Chase Dolander because I was so high on him, and he's totally.
I mean, look at Noah Cameron.
Yeah.
Noah Cameron's looked really good, by the way. But
he has.
Yeah, I do. I actually agree with Ash on that one. That I do think pitchers have come up and had more success. It's more so the health factor, right? Like they come up and they have success, and we don't know if the arm will blow out.
It's the health factor and it's the long-term factor, right? It's can I stay healthy, and can I mix myself up enough that hitters aren't picking up on my consistencies, right?
Right.
And a veteran pitcher will be able to do that, but a young pitcher won't. So again, you roll out McLean starting now, and maybe he's rolling, but by the playoffs, it's like, yeah, no, we've got him figured out, and he can't adjust because he doesn't know how, right?
Well, at this point, if you told me that the Mets get knocked out of the playoffs because McLean got figured out, I'd be like, oh, good, the Mets made the playoffs.
The also the thing that I will say too about the Joe Ryan thing, because I think it's a good discussion. Do remember that this is Joe Ryan's statistically best year, right? And so it's also one of those things of like you might be trading for at like peak value for a player.
He was great. He was great last year too.
But last year he pitched to 3.6. The year before that, do you know what his ERA was?
It was probably a 4 point something.
4.5. And I'm just saying, like, I know, like, I like Joe Ryan, right? But it's also one of those things where you have to consider that they'd be trading for Joe Ryan of 2025 for 2.5 years. And it's not necessary. Like, he's showing a level that most people expected him to get to. As somebody who, like, has watched him for a while, I always thought that, right? But his xFIP this year is actually higher than it was last year. And xERA is also higher. So it's one of those things where he's actually on paper, and I'm not that heavy on analytics, everyone knows that, but on paper, he's getting a little bit more luck than he was last year. So it's one of those things where was the Joe Ryan of last year a 3.6 guy, solid pitcher, you'd love to have him still, right? But hypothetically, they feel like McLean could do that. They feel like these guys can come up and do that. And McLean's has been one of the weirdest things I've ever seen, if I'm being honest, in terms of baseball prospect development. Coming as a two-way player who they say is actually a better hit tool than pitching tool, that his pitching might be average. Then suddenly they find out he's got one of the highest RPMs on his slider in the entirety of the minors. And they're like, you know what? Forget about hitting. Learn how to pitch only. And then they put him to pitch only, and he's suddenly like an ace prospect. And it's weird for me because, like, I love it, obviously, but the whole concept, but they have this faith in him that they think he's going to be something special. And they feel that way with some of these other guys too. Tom came out of nowhere. Tom was like I forgot what pick he was. I was talking about it before, but he was nowhere near a top pick, and he was out of a school in Toronto. And they were like, nope, this is our guy now. He just shot up the rankings. So they feel like they're doing good with their development. And if they are so confident that they can create something close. And I'm not saying better than Joe Ryan, but I'm saying, like, if you can get 75% of Joe Ryan out of like McLean and Tong and keep all your guys, that's where they're probably going to go. But for the most part, I think we agree with each other. Because look, if the offer was there for Joe Ryan, we could figure out and we could debate it, right? Because then we'd say, hey, was it be enough? Because I'm far from being a prospect hugger. I was joking about the Padres moving Leo DeVries, but only because Leo DeVries is one of the best prospects in the entirety of baseball. So moving that for a closer feels kind of like nuts for me, right? Yeah. But guys like Santucci, guys like Jesus Baez that we moved Baez and other names like that for this deadline, they don't faze me because you're going to have to move prospects at some point and make those pushes. But I feel like it's weird to me in the sense that the Mets, you're not prepped for your situation where your starters just somehow forget how to throw 5 innings. I don't even know what's going on because, you know, we talked about runners in score position on the Chavez side, and you say that, hey, it's an approach thing, and it very possibly could. Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. Now it's one of those things where I'm like, are our pitchers physically limited, or are we doing something wrong? I don't think that we should fire either coach. I think I've been open about this. I don't want to fire Hefner. I don't want to fire Chavez. But I do want to know what the hell's going on with this team because it just is on paper, this Mets team is better than most of the league. But apparently the Mets can't read because on paper they're better than everyone in the division, but they can't read. What is going on that there's no reason that we should be in a position where David Peterson is the only, and I love David Peterson. Everyone knows that. But if he's your only guy to go 6 innings twice in the span of like 40 to 50 starts, this is not just like a slump. This is it's concerning and it's not sustainable.
Yeah, and you guys know me. Like, I am one that has always bashed teams for prospect hugging, just like you were talking earlier, Ram. On this channel, I was very hard on the Cincinnati Reds for not trading more prospects to improve their club.
Yeah.
But with regard to Joe Ryan, like I'm not even sure that the Twins were totally serious in moving him with all that control. And that organization has just been weird over the last year and a half to 2 years now, especially with the ownership group being, yes, we're selling, no, we're not, yes, we are, no, we're not. Who knows what the Twins were actually wanting to do? My biggest concerns for the Mets right now is I feel like they have got to get more product. They all year long they've needed more production out of Mark Vientos, but also they need Francisco Lindor to be hitting like the MVP type player that he is. I mean, he's got a 110 WRC plus right now, which is, above league average, especially for a shortstop. But like Lindor's got to hit like an MVP all-star type talent that he is. Mark Vientos, he needed to have an all-star type season that we expected last winter from him. And those are the two things that really, to me, are impacting their potential for this season. We're talking about the trade deadline, but like you remember, like Sean Manaea was right around that, right around coming. He had just come back or was getting ready to come back. I can't remember now, but like Manaea was getting back into that rotation. You knew McGill was getting healthy sometime in August, early September. So I'm not sure that going out and acquiring a starting pitcher was a priority for them, especially when you have all those prospects right there on the doorstep. And McLean, I think he's going to come up and shove. I think that this guy's going to be really good for them and deepen that rotation. And the thing of it is, all you have to do, I mean, we've seen it time and again where all you have to do is get into the playoffs. Like, how many times have we seen a team just make it to survive the regular season, get into the playoffs, and then next thing you know, you make a deep run? I mean, Atlanta was terrible in 2021. They find a way to get to the postseason, and then they win the World Series. Texas Rangers in 2022 were very similar. Kind of just scuffled through the regular season, in fact, both teams in the World Series that year. Arizona kind of came out of nowhere in the playoffs. So all you have to do is get to the postseason, and then it's kind of a crapshoot from there.
You mentioned McLean starting on Saturday, and so I kind of wanted to pivot to that for a second because I feel like I haven't waxed poetic enough about this. I have not been as excited to watch a Mets pitching prospect debut
since Bill Pulsifer. No, I'm kidding.
For me, I would say it's been 10 years. Noah Syndergaard debuted, I believe, in 2015. And I would say that was the last time that I was like, oh, wow, this is a team-changing, like franchise-altering type of pitcher. And so it's been about 10 years since I've gotten excited over a Mets like prospect pitcher to debut like this. Because during that time, that 2015 time, we did see a lot of Wheeler debuted, right? Matt Harvey had really strong stuff. And Syndergaard himself, Rafael Montero. There were a lot of names for the Mets that I was excited about at the time, even if they didn't pan out for the Mets, right? But with McLean and the hype on him, it's been a while since I have been excited about a Mets pitching prospect debuting like this. And I mean it, like it's been probably a full decade since I've been this excited. And I feel like it's getting to the point where it's going to be continued excitement because I will be this excited about Tong and even for Sproat because he's looked a little stronger. And as the Mets continue to develop people, I feel confident. But this is a big deal, folks. And I firmly believe this was done on purpose. They want to give him a few starts this year, and they're going to try to let him pitch Rookie of the Year next year. They really believe in him. He was the first guy to get this call out of that triumvirate of Tong and Sproat and Nolan, even though Sproat's been a higher prospect longer. But McLean has really shot up the rankings since he started focusing on pitching only. And, and to say something positive, I am really excited to see this happen. And I think that it may take him a few starts, but I feel really good about this. I feel really lucky that we got one that is nationally noticeable, and I'm excited. I cannot mask that excitement, and I wanted to take a moment to say that. Right, Peter, I know you're, again, as Ash mentioned before, you've probably been openly one of the most highest people on McLean, and I give you credit for that because even before the public was higher on McLean, you were higher on McLean. So I do give you credit for that. And so I can't imagine that you're anything but over the moon about actually seeing this happen.
I'm so excited. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a prospect guy. I don't do prospect mining. I just happen to randomly come across Nolan McLean. He hit he pitched. His nickname was Cowboy Ohtani. Really, in the beginning, when I first started to hear about him, it was pretty much everybody said that he'd probably be a reliever. That's kind of where he should be. And he had a very solid bat. Then, as Ram said before, they decided to switch him to pitching full time. And I could be wrong. I don't even think it's been 2 full years of him just pitching. And he's already this good. Like, granted, it's the minors. Who knows? He could come up and suck. That's prospect. That's how it goes sometimes. But
he could come up and suck.
He could. I mean, he wouldn't be the first prospect to ever come up and suck. Like, it happens. But like, I'm just really excited about him. I just think there's always been something about him. I've watched some of his starts. I never watch minor league baseball, like, unless I'm going to a game. I went out of my way to watch his starts. I'm excited about him. I think he's going to be good. And Ram, hopefully you're right. Hopefully he's what this team needed to, fix some of their pitching shit.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too. Like, I knew he was a two-way player, but I don't know if you guys are getting kind of the same vibe, but it kind of gives me a Jacob deGrom vibe. deGrom was a shortstop.
Who they converted to a pitcher, yeah.
Who they converted to a pitcher, and it kind of gives me that same vibe. I don't know if you guys are getting that as well.
People have said that, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah,
and he's got long locks of hair too. This photo doesn't always do it justice, but he's got those like old school deGrom hair cut going too.
I mean, if they get 75% of deGrom, I think they did pretty well with them.
When I think of domestic two-way guys, I think of Brendan McKay, and I'm like, well, hopefully he's healthier than Brendan McKay.
Golly.
Well, here's what I would say. Ram kind of mentioned it about his RPMs on a slider. It's the best in baseball. Like, just one pitch,
right?
It's
like
the best in baseball. Like, again, this is a guy that was a two-way player not even 2 years ago, and he's already has the best pitch in baseball. That's nuts. Best slider in baseball. Sorry.
Yep. Yeah, it's a little wild to me to think that somehow that's one of our guys. Right. And I'm going to be, eyes on that Saturday. I'm going to be really interested to watch that work here at the major league level because, teams, the thing about it is that scouting reports have advanced where they know what's coming. That being said, pitchers have shown a penchant to be able to adjust a little faster than hitters. So there's some expectation on this man's shoulders because no matter what's going on with the Mets, I mean, it almost feels poetically like it's going to happen that McLean's going to go 6 on Saturday. It feels if something's going to go right, and it's been a good week for the Mets outside of today and yesterday. It's been a good week.
Has it been a good week?
So
1-9 out of the last 10.
You won one out of 3.
Lost the series to Atlanta.
It's a good week for me because how many times do you get to see a home run franchise record get broken? I think I
was going to say on a personal level, it feels good. I don't know if I feel good about the team right now.
I'm calm, but I'm not.
Cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah, it's one of those things where so I was going to talk about before, Luke, you were talking about returning to the average of like where the starting rotation was, and I think that was an accurate assessment. I also feel like just overall as a whole, they're going to regress to the mean and play better. This is not as good, so that's why I'm calm. And I know that sounds a little psycho, but it's just one of those things where I'm like, they cannot be this bad. It's just not in the same way that I've told people that the Brewers cannot be this good. And I'm not saying they're not going to make the playoffs and be a good team, but I'm just saying like people regress to the mean and it's just the nature of it. Like that's why feel-good stories are really special because they circumvent our expectations. They do things that we don't expect, but reality is most of the time data wins and we regress to the mean. On paper, the Mets have pretty good players. They should regress to a mean where they play better. I just feel like I need to like be calm about it. So I'm not too but I see Chris mentioning Mad Dog Russo's rant, by the way. Was he mad about the fact that Alonso hit a home run? Was he the one complaining about the 250?
I kind of forgot about it, and then Chris made that comment and it brought back all those feelings.
All right, before Peter, before you get into the rant, I mean, I think we should take some time and like talk about Pete Alonso breaking the record and start on a positive note. How do we sound about that?
Yeah, because I wanted to get into that, and that's why I shifted to McLean because I'm like, that feels good for me. It's been a good week because again, so for anyone who's watching this, but who probably knows us because that's our audience right now, you probably know us personally. It's the fact that we were at Tuesday's game, together. The three of us were there, myself, Peter, and Luke. It was the first time that we got to meet in person, which was very pleasant. And of all the things that happened for a first-time meeting, besides us having a conveyor belt sushi, which was cool, was that we got to watch Pete Alonso hit a home run, right? And it was a very special home run. It was a record-breaking home run, and then he hit another one. And it was a fun moment for us, right? I'll bring you into this moment with us, folks.
Oh, Peter, how we doing, buddy?
It's all good, don't worry. You got that beautiful little thumbnail there, Peter crying.
Peter was in tears, in absolute tears. It was awesome.
Yeah, and this is not how do I say, that was not one of those things to that's not making fun of Peter. It's the idea of like how I was, because what do you think about that in context? The idea of Peter, who's a Mets fan for a long time. You've watched a lot of suffering. Of all the games that we got to go to, not only was it the game that we as the New York Power got to meet each other in person, but you got to see Pete Alonso break the home run record, and then he launched another one for good measure in case anybody was worried, right? So we got this beautiful graphic of 250. This is prepped, and it was gorgeous, right? This is actually sexy. Very good credit to them for putting this together. I think it looks great. And then we got the follow-up, which was not as sexy, but at the same time, he's a 254. So
the Mets actually did that, by the way. That was not that the Mets did that, which is hilarious.
So that was the that's the official 254 graphic. Pete Alonso breaks the home run record. I know there's been a lot of talk because they were like, "Hey, 254 is not a big number." Respectfully to the
still
people
a lot of
who say
homers.
that, yeah, I my opinion of that is blow it up your ass, because like I get to have fun once in a while. 254 home runs is a perfectly healthy amount of home runs. I know already. People are going to say, well, Ram, it's the third lowest franchise record. That's fine. He'll add numbers to it, and then we'll figure it out after. All right, so when Pete Alonso gets to a point when his career is over, and he is by far and ahead the longest, in terms of home run hitting for the Mets, most prolific power hitter the Mets have seen, then we can have that conversation. I'm just happy he broke the record. I'm happy he was there. And 254 ain't diddly squat. The Padres have 189. Shut up. All right, it's okay.
The other thing to me is the Mets came into the league in what, 65?
62.
62. Okay. So these teams that are ahead of them on this stupid list, if their guy came into the league before 62, it shouldn't count. I mean, because you got to put in the equal time frames. But 250 homers with a single club in the free agent era
and only 7
is
years.
a lot.
I wouldn't even say 7 years. I mean, think about it too. You also have the COVID season, and you haven't even gotten through this season as well.
I think that's the COVID season, by the way, is a great point as you go into that, because it was shortened, right?
Yes.
They're not going to let this guy go, right? I mean, you cannot let Alonso leave.
I don't know.
Queens, right?
He doesn't fit. Again, going back to David Stern's plan, paying a lot of money for a first baseman.
I think Vientos' struggles emphasize that you got to keep Pete.
I mean, I hope
if Vientos was an all-star, it'd be a lot easier to say, well, go ahead, walk. We'll just move Vientos over to first base.
I do think, that number one, I do think that they will end up re-signing him. If anything, I hope that, Pete seeing, he was a free agent last year. He didn't really get any of what he wanted. And hopefully he signs a team-friendly deal. But if he doesn't, that's his privilege, and I'll cheer for him wherever he goes. But I guess before we go on my negative rant, what I will say about Pete is he's my favorite Met. Sure, there are Mets who, on paper, are better baseball players than Pete Alonso. You have Juan Soto and Lindor when he decides to, play up to his full ability. But there's always been something special about Pete. Obviously he's a homegrown guy. He's a big goober. He's the one that came up with the "let's fucking go Mets," and he got in trouble for saying it. So he just had to go, LFMG, which is hilarious. He's always
you got the acronym backwards there.
I got really confused there, but you
know what I'm talking about.
LIRR, you got it.
LFMG.
So, whatever. And that was very Pete Alonso of me. I apologize. But he's just a big goober. All right, like he's a really fun guy. His connection with the crowd is wonderful. Like, yeah, like yes, if any other Met would have broke that record, it would have been amazing because we would have fell in love with the guy too. But like, for me, just personally, besides the fact that we share the same name, it was as a fan of this team and a fan of Pete, it was so cool, and I truly view it for me. It was an honor that I was able to be there to watch him do that and to give him 2 curtain calls and cheer his name when he came out to play defense after hitting the home run, and just the entire stadium. It was so cool. It was a wonderful moment and a wonderful time, and I'm glad I got to share it with you guys.
As a baseball fan, this guy has to be a Met for life. Like, a lot of guys you can see in another uniform. I just can't see Pete Alonso wearing any other uniform. Like, they have got to keep this guy.
The post game, I think, kind of solidified that for me too, and Luke and Peter can attest to it. But this man really seems to enjoy being here, and it does seem like it meant a lot to him to do this. And he openly talked about the fact that going into this year, getting this record was on his list of things to do. He did want this, and I find it difficult to think that he wants to leave. I know that it necessarily doesn't fit the plan. So this is one of them where I will just speak on behalf of my emotions and not the logic, and the fact that I would break my heart to see Pete sign up for another team. I just don't want, we don't get players like this very often in Metsville, in Queens. Like, it's one of those things that I really am attached to Pete Alonso for that reason. And I would be heartbroken to see him with another team because it just wouldn't feel right. I don't think I'd be able to cheer for him. I wouldn't root against him, but it would just kind of hurt me. It wouldn't feel right. And if what we get is this, our big dumb polar bear first baseman just mashing home runs and sitting there listening to Immigrant Song while he plans to destroy people at the home run derby, that's our first baseman, man. That's my guy. I absolutely love this guy, and he loves being here. And I just will not accept the idea that he's going to go anywhere else.
For me, it was the equivalent for me in what you just said, I think, was seeing Tom Glavine and John Smoltz in other uniforms. Those were the two for me that were really difficult to stomach.
But that's
now Glavine could not get a Brave out for anything. I mean, Atlanta pummeled him whenever the Mets came to Atlanta. But those were the two for me that I think are kind of equivalent as far as your heart, seeing those guys in other uniforms.
But that's unfortunately, that's been the history of the Mets. Who are our lifelong Mets? I mean, obviously, I know Don LaGreca has that famous rant about Ed Kranepool.
Shit, even Tom Seaver wasn't a lifelong.
Tom Seaver wasn't a lifelong.
No, and I mean,
I don't really count guys though when they just go for a year or two at the end. Like that, to me, that's not the same as what this would be.
Yes, I get that, but it still happens. I mean, especially someone like Tom. That's obviously I wasn't alive then, but hearing Mets fans that were taught that it broke their heart. Obviously we have David Wright, but David Wright's career was cut short by injury, so we didn't get he didn't even get an opportunity to play for that long. So if it's not Pete, I don't know who it's going to be right now besides him.
Yeah, I'd say as an outsider here and utilizing logic and not so much emotion, I don't see Pete coming back. I just don't. I think he's checked the box with the Mets. He's now the career home run records, and I think the way they treated his free agency last year is a testament to how they feel about Pete Alonso. I think a lot of teams are going to look at how well he played this year, especially at the beginning of the year, and I think they're going to try to jump at him. And I think there's definitely some teams on the West Coast that could use a first baseman like Pete Alonso.
I mean, he has said, because obviously it was rumored that the Angels offered him a lot of money, and he has said he didn't mention specific names, but he did not want to be a big fish in a small pond, and that's absolutely what he would be with the Angels. So I think a lot of it also is who offers him a contract.
I would argue that the Angels might be a playoff team with Pete Alonso. They're only 5 games out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but who was expecting that in the offseason?
Right. But if the Angels come back to him now and they're like, okay, hey, we made a push this year, and you're gonna be the guy that gets us over the edge. You're no longer a big fish in a small pond.
I don't see it, actually. I think he played himself into a new Mets contract. I think that this is what's happened.
I think with the fandom kind of rallying around him after breaking this record, I think that this is one of the few, and let me be careful on how I say this. This would be one of the very few moments that Steve Cohen could really strike out with the fans, is if he does not bring back Pete Alonso. I think he connects with those fans. I think that he is a New York Met. When you think of the Mets right now, I think of Pete Alonso, like, more than I do anybody else. And not to mention those heart strings that I'm talking about, but also this team has really, outside of a couple of guys, if you take Pete Alonso out of that lineup, there is some anemic power in that lineup.
Yeah.
Like, if Mark Vientos was the all-star that we thought he would be this year, I think it'd be very easy to let Pete walk. But as of now, Vientos isn't even an everyday player. Like, who are you going to get to replace that bat if he walks? I think he has more leverage now than he had a year ago.
That's what I think. I think he has but I also think, in the sense of what I'm saying, that he's played himself into the contract, that it's that perfect storm of things. Like, there was a lot of discussion last offseason. They said, hey, we'll just move Vientos over there and we'll figure out third base, right? We'll put Vientos at first because he can't field at third and we don't need Pete. Oh, Ryan Clifford's going to be the guy at first base and we're not going to need Pete, right? Clifford's fine, but he's not Pete Alonso. Vientos is struggling. You still have a hole at third. I think he's played his way into staying here. And I think people forget because his skill set declines, right? At the end of the day, this is a guy who turns 31 in December. He's only 30. It's not like he's 34 and we're saying, okay, he's on definite decline. You know, me growing up, old school prime was 27 to 32. So you've still got a few years of solid power hitting in there, if not
look
more.
at Freddie Freeman.
Yeah.
Look how old he is, and he's still doing it.
Right. So well, to be fair, Freddie Freeman's got a different profile. I mean, he's just got a better hit tool than Pete Alonso. I can't be. And I like.
I'm
Freddie
trying to
Freeman
throw you one here, Ram.
No,
it's Freddie Freeman. Come on.
There's not.
I'm throwing softballs here. Like,
there's not a direct comparison between.
I think because the power hitting right-handed first baseman trope is that he's going to decline at some point, but I think the decline is further off.
There's always been so many Alonso haters too, though. Like, so I think that to me, I just ignore that now. Like, Pete Alonso is one of the best hitters in our game.
But let me ask this. Let me ask you this, Ash. Like, do you think Steve Cohen strikes out if, I know we keep using the Angels as the example. The Angels come in and say, hey, Pete, we want you 7 years, 280 million, right? 40 million a year. And Steve Cohen walks away from that. Do you think that's a loss for him?
The average fan doesn't care about, like, whether or not somebody else overpaid. They just care about the guy walking and not being re-signed. So, like, I don't think that Cohen would lose the fan base over that, but it could be the first crumble. Like, say he walks, and then next year, you have a bunch of injuries. The team ends up barely scuffling along at 500. All of a sudden, there's a magnoscope then that could be on there, and suddenly you start having a snowball effect of bad things happen. And I just think you're creating a very very tenuous situation. Like, I think it's unnecessary, and I think they need to sign him and just not take the chance that you're going to take such a PR hit by letting a beloved player like that walk.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, your point is heard, Luke, about the fact that they obviously treated him in free agency as a not primary option, right? They kind of treated that whole free agency situation as, but it always felt like, for some reason, for me, that he was going to stay. And I think it's because, as much as I don't know Pete Alonso personally, I do feel like he wants to be here. I feel like he's one of those people that if you give him the choice, that if he gets offered 180 million somewhere, that he will call the Mets and say, will you match this? Right. And I feel like at the end of the day, if it just comes down to money in that case, Cohen will do it. So that's why I have that confidence to say, I think that he has played his way into a Mets contract and it works out for both sides, because this is truly what we want. Sometimes we make decisions with our heart in baseball, and I think this is one of them that makes sense. But speaking with your heart and things that don't make sense, However, right? I see Chris commenting about it. How much did your skin crawl watching Russo, Peter? You did have something to say there.
Well,
and
let's save it for the end. It's been almost an hour. We haven't even talked about the Yankees yet. We'll save it for final thoughts.
Well, but before we get into the Yankees, I know we talked about Pete's 2 home runs that we saw on Tuesday, but someone else hit a home run Tuesday night, and you were really excited about it, Peter. Who hit a home run Tuesday night?
Brett Beatty hit a home run Tuesday. He hit an RBI single.
He did. He did. Yeah. He had a very clutch RBI single early in the game. Yeah. And Ram witnessed all of this happen, like right in front of him.
Yeah.
What do you have to say? What do you have to say about
Do you remember the first few at bats of the game when I was laughing because everyone was productive except Brett Beatty, and I got to sit there and say, I knew they'd be fine because they're not Brett Beatty, and then Brett Beatty would come up and inevitably fail, and I'm like, I knew that would happen because he's Brett Beatty. And it was only because I stopped tormenting him that he hit. So I realized that like my vocal stimulation must have done a lot of pain to Brett Beatty. And I want to formally apologize to Brett Beatty because when I told Brett Beatty he was bad, he continued to be bad. But when I was so excited about other people hitting home runs and I didn't have to verbally abuse him, he did well. I learned also because as somebody who shouted out to Brandon Nimmo, I'll go to church on Sunday if you break your slump. And then he proceeded to home run. And so now I've got to go to church on Sunday because I'm not going to be a liar to Brandon Nimmo. I'll consider next time, giving the old like real cheer to Brett Beatty and seeing if positive if that helps. Because taking away me abusing him verbally, it seems like he was able to be successful, and I have to think that I have a lot of influence in that regard because it hurts Peter a lot. So I had to give it some second thought.
Have you had any thought about dropping your resume off of the Mets for to be the hitting coach? Because it sounds like you're getting more. It sounds like you're getting more out of the lineup than Eric Chavez is right now. It sounds like
I feel like I know how to motivate the guys. Like
and that's my point.
I know how to motivate these guys because I know it means something to them, right? Because being somebody who's in the CBL in the Big East, right? A lot of things mean more to me. Yeah, they mean the most to me, and I understand that where. So I know how to get to these guys emotionally, and I feel bad that thinking about the fact that I've affected Brett Beatty in a way that he just hit the ball by verbal abuse. I know I'm pretty loud at Citi Field, so I guess he heard me. I felt bad about that.
Is this how little you want to talk about the Yankees, Luke? That you're letting?
No, he wasn't going to talk about Brett Beatty, and I'm okay with it because it's fun. As somebody who openly talks about this stuff, it's not fair if I get to skirt by. Right, Brett Beatty hit a home run in front of us. Like, it's perfectly fine.
And an RBI single before that. When apparently you're saying like he just didn't he hit an RBI single.
Yeah, a broken clock is correct twice a day. So it makes sense. The RBI single and the home run, twice a day a broken clock is correct. I'm not bothered by that, right? It made sense. The rest of the day, it was a broken clock.
You seemed pretty bothered by it, I'm not going to lie.
I was in a great mood. I got to watch effective players on the Mets do effective things. Francisco Alvarez homered. Pete Alonso hit 2 home runs.
Francisco Alvarez hit 2 home runs.
We ran out of pyro. It was good. I enjoyed it. Overall, I want to forget about the fact that Clay Holmes was asked to, but
it's easy to do that. I'm all for the Brett Beatty talk, but I mean, I kind of want to cycle back to this Eric Chavez narrative because it sounds like just Tuesday you had a good hitting performance, and it's because Ram was there motivating the guys. Has nothing to do with Eric Chavez, and we should have been there screaming fire Chavez. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. That sounds like the narrative that you're creating right now,
Ram. Ram for hitting coach 2025.
Yeah, I'll do it for free. I'll save him the money. He can put it towards Pete Alonso, and I'll motivate these guys. I'll make it happen.
Wow. All right, Ram 2026. I'm all
Eric
for it. Tish.
Eric Chavez is a far better hitter than I ever was, so I'm not even gonna.
Wasn't he a rookie of the year?
Was Eric Chavez rookie of the year with the Ace? Was he?
I think he was. Let me look this up.
I'm gonna check that one now.
It has nothing to do with being like Eric Chavez being a good hitter. He's just not getting. Yeah, apparently he's just not getting it out of his players. And Barry
Bonds is a great hitter. He was a terrible pitching coach. Or hitting coach, sorry.
I would hope he's not
coach.
Yeah,
coach. But no, I will say, I think I said this before, and I'll repeat it because I want to be clear. I don't think either of the coaches need to be fired, but I do think that changes need to happen. Like, if this is the way that they play all through September, I understand the idea of saying, like, all right, we're gonna just jettison guys and start over. But I also feel like volatile behavior with the coaches can sometimes be problematic. So I'm not really on board with like jumping and firing them right away. We'll see. Heads will have to roll if the Mets fail to be able to like do anything. Right. So we will see. I'm gonna check this. I don't think he was rookie of
No,
the
it
year.
was Ben. It was his teammate Ben Grieve won Rookie of the Year in '98. So
Who?
Ben Grieve.
Wow.
Wow.
That's a name that I haven't
I
thought
didn't
about
know-
that in a
I
while.
didn't think that was going to be on the podcast tonight.
What, Ben
But,
Grieve?
Or
yeah, I
ever.
did not. But, you know, Eric Chavez, former Yankee, we can switch over back to the Yankees for a bit, Luke, because we have to let you talk a little bit. And we spent a lot of time talking about hometown guys departing. We watched hometown guy for Ash, Max Fried and the Braves leave to the big bad Yankees. And it looked like a really good deal right off the bat, and I still think it is. But he has started to slow down significantly, right?
Yeah.
And so what's going on in Max Fried land over there? Like, are you worried? Do you think that he'll be fine? Do you think he's recovering from some kind of injury type thing? Like, what's up with Max Fried? Because the Yankees need him.
Yeah, no, I know there was an issue with a blister. I want to say that was a month ago, but that shouldn't have a long-term effect on your pitching. I think what did I have before? I think he was pitching over a 5 ERA in July. So far in August, he's pitching over 7 ERA in 10 innings pitched. It's not good, and I know I just kind of keep creating this narrative, but it's almost like, again, a regression to the mean, right? He was sub 2 ERA going through June. I don't think that's sustainable. I don't think that's sustainable for Max Fried. I think he's always been and Ash, you can totally correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm not looking at stats right now, but he's always been a low 3 ERA guy.
Well, and what makes me wonder is like each of the last 2 years, he kind of had some shoulder issues.
Yep.
Second half of the year. So
Yep.
it makes me like start to worry, you know.
Yep.
And hasn't he had some blister issues this year too?
Yeah, he had blister issues in July.
Yeah.
And I think I said this a couple months ago. I mean, I was very skeptical of the low ERA from Max Fried. And one of the skepticisms is exactly what Ash said, is he's been very injury prone in previous years, especially with the shoulder. And you kind of get nervous as he's racking up more innings. So I don't know if there's some kind of underlying injury that's causing him to pitch this poorly, but it's looked really bad. Not just bad, just really bad. And it's not what we've been used to for Max Fried this season, and it's been really a detriment for the team as well. Because it was almost like any time he would go out and pitch, the Yankees would win, and now it just seems like the exact opposite. He goes out there and they lose. But it seems like any pitcher they roll out right now, they're going to lose anyway.
Well, it doesn't help that the Guardians have decided to stop point shaving, and are actually winning games now.
Yeah, and I know we talked about a pre-show too, and it's almost a surprise from the Guardians as well, because at the deadline you're talking about sell. They talked about moving Quan. They moved Bieber. I want to say they moved someone else, but it's been surprising out of the Guardians, and it seemed like the Yankees had everything locked up, just to make the playoffs, and now you're really scrounging to get in. Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, you can see here. I mean, he was utterly dominant. Like, I
Yep.
mean, you see in April in 5 starts, 0.82. I mean, these aren't advanced stats, but it's just you can see the numbers in front of you. That's brilliant, right? Like, you cannot ask for more. And then 2.65, 1.91, he's cruising. So first half of the season, Cy Young contender, right? We talked about this. At one point, he was a Cy Young contender. And now, I mean, this is rough. Right, 5, and right now in August 7.2, it's been like Jekyll and Hyde, and you can see what also hurts is the opponent batting average against. I mean, the best of it was in April; it was under 200, and now it's up to 356.
Yeah.
So it's a tough one. I mean, do you expect him to rebound?
I mean, I'm hopeful that he rebounds because he's supposed to be the ace of the staff with Garrett Cole down. You hope he can figure it out. He's a veteran pitcher, and I think he can do it if it's mental or something like tipping pitches. You'd hope with all the experience he can figure that out. But if it's an underlying injury, I don't know if he'll be able to pull it together.
No, that's fair. I think you mentioned before that you said, he was like a mid 3 or like a 3 pitcher before. And I believe that I always looked at him like an ace with Atlanta. I feel like he always pitched well against us. His career ERA is 3.05. So he is about that. He's a pretty high level pitcher. I would say right around that, like sub 3, just about there is about what you expect from him. I mean, there were some years I remember him being, I looked up to double check. 2022 was 2.48, 2023, 2.55. But as Ash alluded to, he did have like some shoulders things. So there was worry injury wise because of the length of this contract. I think that's why Fried was kind of, he had a colder market than people expected. But I was very open about the fact that I thought it was a good signing for the Yankees. I thought it was exactly what they needed. Good left-handed starter, especially because I didn't think Rodon was going to bounce back the way that he did. But it turns both teams are just struggling to figure out their rotations right now because beyond 1 or 2 guys, they don't know exactly what's going on. And so if Fried doesn't rebound, it puts them in a tough spot because, I mean, they're sort of looking at where the Mets are. They made bullpen moves too. You guys picked up Duvall, you picked up a Bednar, right? And you're trying to supplement your bullpen, and that'll lead into something else I want to ask you about because I was having this conversation with another Yankees fan, so I kind of want your perspective on it. They said, Devin Williams being who he is, that every time he's been moved to the 6th or the 7th, he finds his form again and he's fine. Boone immediately puts him back in the 9th and he kind of screws up, right? And you look at some guys like Anthony Volpe who have struggled a lot of the year, but it feels like there hasn't necessarily been any repercussions for them. So, general question here. Do you feel like Boone is maybe too much of a player's manager? Do you think he's sticking to his guns too hard with these guys and it's allowing him to keep the locker room, but it's making the Yankees worse?
Yeah, we talked about this last week, right? The guys want to play for him. They enjoy playing for him, but it's not to the point that they're going to run through a wall for him. And that's what the Yankees are missing right now. You hit the nail right on the head. There's no repercussions for poor play. There's no repercussions for bonehead mistakes. I mean, we've seen bonehead mistakes all throughout the season, and what do you get? Stern talking to, maybe, and even in sometimes. And I know I talked about this last week, but the thing with Jazz Chisholm in Miami, it was like I saw him tear the first baseman the first base coach a new one in the dugout and barely spoke to Jazz about it. Like it was Jazz who was completely in the wrong on going so far off first base and then getting caught up in the double play. The guys are gonna love playing for Boone, but you make it too easy for them. Make it way too easy for them, and it's just I can play at a mediocre level, cash in my paycheck, and maybe we'll coast in the playoffs.
I mean, sorry, continue. I mean,
no, go ahead, Peter.
I was gonna say, for me, I don't think Boone is that bad of a manager. I'm a little bit confused on some of the general Yankee fan hatred of him, but he does make weird decisions, mainly with the bullpen. Like a couple days, I don't remember exactly what day it was, but I know. And correct, apologies if I'm pronouncing his name wrong. I probably am. But Schittler was pitching, and he went 5, which is about it's about where you would want him to go.
Yeah,
but he had Mark Leiter available, and the Yankees were off the day before, so their bullpen was about as well rested as a bullpen can be. But he went to De Los Santos, and it did not go well. And then he ended up putting in Weaver, and he's skipping Mark Leiter and putting in Weaver, which we've all talked about in this podcast extensively, how Weaver should be the closer. But like, what's this weird bullpen management? Like, if your bullpen is as well rested as it was at that point, why are you going with the guys that are, at least this is from an outsider perspective, but De Los Santos is probably like the last rung of your bullpen. Why are you putting him in that position?
Yeah, no, it's such a it, and that's been one of the biggest knocks on Boone as well is his bullpen management. Early on, he was almost too. Uh, he's one of the biggest knocks is that he doesn't have a gut for the game. He's very analytical. He's very going with what the front office's analytics are saying, and he doesn't have a good feel for the game. One of the biggest criticisms when we went early in his managerial career was he would go to the bullpen way too fast. Like he wouldn't give his starters any leeway. It's just, hey, I see you're struggling a little bit. I'm going to go right to the bullpen. And obviously that has an impact, and is particularly in the playoffs. Particularly in the playoffs when you're playing the same team, 5, 6, 7 times within a week and a half. When you start using your bullpen so much, when you started getting into that 6th and 7th game, they've seen that guy so many times now that they've tied him up. I kind of attribute that to our losses in Houston all those years, right? Is that
not the garbage cans?
Partially, and also the beeper on Altuve's chest too that you didn't want to show. But anyway, that was one of the things. And then it seems like this year he's almost flip flopped. It's like he's giving way too much leeway to these guys later in the game, and then they absolutely get torched as they're running out of juice. The De Los Santos one just made me scratch my head last night. You had a fresh bullpen, and that's the guy you go to in a 1-1 game. And it's just to me, it's sort of ironic. And I want to say he pitched the night before too, but I could be wrong. And I'm sort of kicking myself too because I know he did. Yeah, exactly. He pitched the night before, and I was just sort of kicking myself because I was telling Ram the other day how much I liked DLS. I think
I like him too.
I think he has a really good mix. When the Yankees traded for him, it almost felt like they were supplementing Clay Holmes. I know he also came from the Pirates, just like Clay Holmes, but he has a really good sinker. And yeah, I don't understand why going to De Los Santos two nights in a row. Just it doesn't make sense, especially with such a fresh bullpen and a day off today. And like you have a day off to rest everybody today. I don't know why you go 2 days in a row with him.
So what I'm picking up then overall is that you're starting to feel, and you might have felt this way for a while. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'll just ask, do you feel like a culture change is needed right now? Like, do you just feel like he's no longer the guy to lead the ship? Or do you feel like he can redeem himself by the end of the year?
No, it's a tough question. I mean, my gut tells me, there needs to be a culture change. Historically, I'd have to say no. Most recent article I read was, about Old Timers Day, and Joe Torre actually was there and talking about Aaron Boone and made comments. And I want to say it was the 99 team that ran into a very similar skid that the Yankees are running into right now.
And that's where bring up 99.
Oh, sorry, Ash. I forgot.
Man, these fresh wounds. He just got to keep going at them.
26 years ago. I mean, some people let those kind of things go, but I'm glad you're still holding on to it. But hey, the Braves beat the Mets this week, so we could talk about that. No,
you got to bring up fresh wounds, Luke.
Those are fresh wounds. That's what a fresh wound looks like. Not 1999. But anyway, historically, I want to say that they can right the ship, but I think Joe Torre's managerial style is significantly different than what Aaron Boone is. So. I give him a lot of credit for standing up to the players at all times. I think he sometimes makes a total fool of himself, arguing with the umpires. I think a lot of the times it's in very bad situations too. I think the one of note was a couple months ago in Boston, and I think it was the 9th or 10th inning. He goes out and argues balls and strikes, and I'm like, dude, like if there's any time that the team needs you, it's right now. Like, how about how about we stick around for a couple more innings and see how this thing plays out? Yeah. So I don't know. My gut tells me, yeah, there needs to be a culture change, but
Isn't that
historically,
kind of like leadership, kind of the Yankee way, though? Like, I can't ever remember a disciplinarian being the manager of the New York Yankees.
Joe Torre was 100%. Not Joe Torre. Joe Girardi was 100% a disciplinarian, and that's why he lost. That's why he lost his job in New York.
Yeah, I just don't. That doesn't happen very often there. Like, they always have these kind of guys that you think of as being kind of laid back.
And especially, I mean, I feel like that's the weird thing about Boone. It's not even necessarily Boone's fault. He's doing what he's told. Like, I mean, from all accounts, it's not like he's going. That's what it seems to be. Like you said, Luke, he follows the analytical department. That means that, like, yeah, obviously Boone's the manager, but like, is he really in charge of the team?
And that's always been the narrative. That's always been the narrative with Boone and the front office, is that he's just a drone for them, and he's
So
good.
then why would they fire him?
Exactly.
And nothing would change if they got rid of him.
Exactly. So you get a good face in front of the camera and a guy who can go out and yell at umpires and make a fool of himself.
Sounds like a sweet gig.
He's
probably,
job. He's probably if you guys got fresh resumes, I'd put it out for the Yankees job too.
I don't want it. That's Brad.
Hey, I heard they're going to hire Eric Chavez in the offseason.
Please do. That's a good hire. Hey, we would take it all your coaches. You can take some of ours.
Actually, no, they can have Brian Snitker. I think that he might be available.
I get the feeling he might be available.
You think the Braves are gonna fire Snitker?
I mean,
what a guy.
I know this isn't I know this isn't the Atlanta Power Hour, but I kind of give you your moment to talk about a manager here.
No, he's got to go. Like, he got lucky in 21 when they underachieved all season, and then went hot in the last 6 weeks of the season to make the playoffs and then win the World Series. And now he's just been coasting off of it. So,
but I know you said a number of times, and you said it before the season started, that this wasn't a roster that was built for the playoffs.
And I stand by that. Like,
okay.
Now, part of when I said that, I was basing it off the last time that Acuna had an ACL injury, and the following year he was kind of mediocre. So I expected him to be that way this year, but of course this year he's come back and hit a lot better. Of course, but the rotation has been obliterated with injuries. But I mean, you can't. You're not a playoff team with Nick Allen as your starting shortstop. I'm sorry. Like,
but with Orlando Arcia, they were.
I mean, the thing of it is, Arcia. I've complained a lot about Orlando Arcia, but for a year and a half, he was an above average hitter, and so they overcame his defense.
Right.
I mean, when they went out and signed him in 2023, he won the job with his bat.
Right.
And then halfway through 2024, he was still hitting, and then fell off the face of the earth.
So it sounds like you guys really could use some bats. If only there was a guy available that's going to be available after this year. Plays a really good defense too, and out in center field.
We have Money Mike, who's actually hitting.
Well, listen, at the game that I mean, you guys
Michael Harris has been one of the best hitters in baseball over the last 6 weeks.
He has.
Okay, well, he also was one of the worst hitters in baseball.
He was, and I was very outspoken on this channel about demoting him to AAA. So
all I'm saying is the game I was out on Tuesday, you had Brujan on right field. That could be a beautiful spot for Trent Grisham.
Oh, the game that I went to a couple weeks ago in Cincinnati, the starting right fielder was Eli White.
Eli White, I think, also started
season
as well in this game. But it's an interesting one because I don't know if I want Grisham to go because of the fact they keep this trend of like Verdugo went over there, and I'm like, can we stop? I just want to not hear these names anymore. I get tired of it.
They're going to be forced to bring him back.
Verdugo or Grisham?
Grisham.
The Yankees?
Yeah.
I actually said that. I think they will. I actually made the. I think the Yankees are keeping Grisham only because it would make Luke very happy, and I think that makes a lot of sense.
Actually, you know what? I take that back. The Yankees are not about making Luke's happy. a la Luke Weaver, a la Luke Voigt. So if it's designed to make me happy, it's not happening.
So you think Grisham's no longer that he's not an option?
I
for
think
next
he's
year?
already gone. I think they've already decided he's not coming back because they know it's going to make me happy if he comes back.
God help me. Is there anything else on the Yankees you want to touch on before we wrap up for the night? By the way,
I'm
No.
sorry.
No,
yeah,
they're
both
bad.
New York teams suck right now. We can't do anything about it. It's okay. All right, let's cycle around. Let's see if we've got any last takes for the night. I know Peter at least has one for sure. Ash, do you have anything for me that you'd like to share with the class?
Yeah, I kind of touched on it quite a bit already, but Steve Cohen, pay up. You've got to keep the polar bear. You got to keep the polar bear in Queens. This is a face of the franchise type guy. Yes, you have Juan Soto, but polar bear's your face. He's the face of the franchise. He's the guy that the fans gravitate to. He is one of those guys that if he is re-signed and plays the duration of his Mets career, or the duration of his baseball career in New York, he's a Mount Rushmore guy for that franchise. Like him and Tom Seaver are both on that Mount Rushmore of Mets history if you bring him back. So this is a guy that you have to do it. Like, please don't make a baseball fan of me upset by not doing this, because this is the Tony Gwynn of the New York Mets. This is the Chipper Jones of the New York Mets. This is one of those guys that is an iconic player in your history. Do not let him go.
Compare him to Chipper Jones. Watch your mouth.
Do you know? I mean, look, Chipper Jones tormented us, but he's like not the worst of the Braves. You know.
Yeah,
that.
but like, don't be like, oh, talking about Mets and whatever, and then you bring it. Come on.
I was just giving single team examples.
He's fair. He's fair. I respect that.
He's an iconic Met.
Look, we love to hate Larry. We don't actually hate Larry, I don't think.
I mean, how can you hate a guy that embraced the rivalry so much that he named his kid after your stadium? Like,
yeah, well, you know what? Speaking of that, I can't wait because Pete's about to have a kid. I can't wait for him to name his kid Spencer. That's gonna be really nice after Spencer Strider, because we fucking own him.
I thought his dad just changed. No,
Spencer's a lot better than naming your kid Truist. I'll tell you that much. I will. So as for me for the evening, what else? I'm gonna bring this up for a little fun here, because I had a good day on Tuesday. I think it's nice to just say nice things for a second. I mentioned it earlier, but being able to meet these guys in person was a lot of fun. And also I do want to say thank you to Ash, because if not for meeting you, I wouldn't have met these guys and wouldn't have an opportunity to do all this stuff. And normally I like to be, throw jabs here. Like I was going to write up this whole thing about how Hunter Dobbins is out for the year so Luke can breathe easy. And I was like, man, I saw that news and my first thought was like, oh man, Luke's and the Yankees are breathing a sigh of relief that Hunter Dobbins isn't going to be around to own them anymore. But then I met the guy and, Luke Island Railroad, and I met Peter and we hung out, and it's just nice to have moments like this in life with the way that my life is going right now, to spend time with good people and enjoy baseball. And I sincerely enjoyed the fact that I got to share a historical moment for Mets franchise history with the two of you. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And I wanted to take a moment to say that and throw that out, because you can see that we are happy here. If not Peter looking high, but he's not. But
listen, I'm the only one not wearing sunglasses. The sun's right in my eyes.
I know, which is actually probably the easiest thing as to why you look like that, because we're looking straight into the sun when we did that. But no, it did make me, the whole situation makes me happy, and I just want to take a moment to tell you guys that I really do love and appreciate all of you, and I love being here. This is a lot of fun. So I thought it would be fair to share that as a last thought. Luke, I know emotions aren't your thing, and I know that's going to make you really uncomfortable, so I'm going right to you. What is your final thought for the night?
No, I want to second that too, and obviously, thank you to Ash for getting us together again, giving us this platform to talk, and thank you to both of y'all for having me out in Queens and going to a Mets game. It was a ton of fun. I had a great time. To meet you guys in person and really get the lore of Satish Ram, the mayor of Queens, unofficial mayor of Queens. Because if you don't know, Ram knows everybody. I can empirically prove it because you sit down for sushi. And you meet a waitress, and somehow Ram is connected to her in the most wild way. And I hope the lore of that story continues. And I'm only gonna foreshadow a little bit, but for later shows, I hope that lore grows even further. Um, Again, I had a wonderful time with you guys. So much fun, and it was probably the most fun I've had in a while. And I appreciate the both of y'all. And Ash, I appreciate you for bringing all of us together.
Peter, go ahead and say mean things about Russo and clap us off because we need to get right back on track here with hate.
All right, well, real quick, yes, I had a wonderful time. It was a lot of fun. I'm so glad I got to meet you guys. Thank you, Ash, for giving us a little bit of free time out of the basement. I appreciate it. We needed that beautiful sunshine. But anyway, so Chris Russo, Mad Dog, the number 2 to Mike Francesa, however you want to call him. So he apparently didn't like that the Mets, made a big deal out of Pete Alonso breaking the home run record, and he also did not like Gary Cohen making it a huge spectacle in his call. For those who don't know, and I didn't know till after because I was at the game, Gary Cohen dropped a rare double "It's Out of Here," which he hasn't done since Todd Frazier in like 2019, I believe. I'm sure Ram can fact check me on that. But I had a lot of thoughts on it. I was very angry, and then I was listening to Don LaGreca, and Don LaGreca said a lot of what I was feeling. Chris Russo, you're a Giants fan. Your opinion does not matter on this topic. This was 4 Mets fans. Gary's call was 2 Mets fans, and it meant the world to us. We all love Pete. Pete's the man in Citi Field. He is the man in Queens. And yeah, sure, whatever. The number's not great, but he beat Darryl Strawberry's record, another person that Mets fans love. And like, it's just, I'm sorry, it's a stupid, boneheaded take that you're gonna be like, oh, how could you make a big deal out of breaking the Mets home run record when it's only like 152? Like, that's not very high. So what? It doesn't fucking matter if the number is 3 or the number is 252. Like, it's a record, and it was broken, and it meant a lot to every single person that was there. And you're not a Mets fan. You're a Giants fan. Worry about your team. Why? Like, it just, I don't know. It's stupid. And like, I get it. The Mets are like, have been like LOL Mets. It's a fun meme franchise, and it's fun to make fun of them. But like, I saw no reason to, and people found ways to do it anyway. So it's just like, whatever. Chris Russo, you weren't even better than Mike Francesa. It was not even that good anyway. So whatever.
That's the right take, baby. All right, so wrapping up for the night, speaking on behalf of myself, the Luke Island Railroad, the Master Beatty, and Ash himself, we're going to wish you all a good night. Thank you for tuning on to the New York's Power Hour. Once again, we will see you next week when we run this again at our regularly scheduled time on Wednesday evenings. You all take care until then. Thank you for tuning in once again.